It's your boy, Amreezy, and I'm back with another Plassars episode. Plassars, as we all should know by now, is Premier League and Sorare amazing review show. This is a new thing I've started doing last week, not last week, but the week before last week, because we did have an FA Cup break last week, so there was no Premier League football to review. However, there's Premier League football to review now, and we're back. We're back. How this show works, if you're new around here, is every Monday I like to do a live show, Plassars, as it's known, as everyone's calling it now. We're all calling it Plassars. I review the weekend of Premier League football. I talk about each game and what it kind of means, if there's any standout players from a kind of fantasy football point of view. The game I like to play is Sorare, so that's kind of the game I use to show you. However, I do believe this is useful information that could be applicable to any fantasy game. If you might play FPL, you might play, I don't know, any other games, but you might play other games that involve Premier League fantasy football, or you might just play Sorare, which is, in my opinion, the best fantasy football game. And you watch the football, you watch Premier League, you play Sorare, you like it. That's what I do on these videos. I go through the results, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to jump straight in. Let's switch camera modes to round 25, game week 25, and it kicked off with my Chelsea boys getting humiliated, royally humiliated against Brighton. So what we do is we review the Premier League games in the order that they happened. So Premier League game number 1 this weekend was Brighton 3, Chelsea 0, and last week, Brighton had a terrible game. They had a terrible game week. And I was saying, there's not really any Brighton players that I'd consider buying except for Minte, because Minte looked lively in the last game. I think it was when Brighton lost to Nottingham Forest 7-0. That was the last Premier League game Brighton had. So I didn't see this coming. I didn't, even though Chelsea haven't been in great form, and we'll get to Chelsea in a bit, but we're starting off with Brighton because they were great. They did royally dismantle Chelsea, and it was a surprise considering they'd lost 7-0 the game before, and Minte was the only good player from that Forest game. They lost 7-0. He was the only player that I said, okay, look, I'm not really looking at buying any Brighton Sorare cards, but if I was, Minte would be the one. He'd be the guy that I'd go for. He'd be the kind of, you know, he's a kind of cheap card that you could get when Brighton have a good fixture. He's a kind of nice differential to have. And he was once again man of the match here. You can see here, 9.3 rating he got. 9.3 rating for Minte. He was amazing. Right wing back, all right wing. They played 3 at the back this game, but they've played 4 at the back with him kind of just off the striker. So he's very versatile. He's very energetic. He's strong. He's quick. I think he's going to be a great Premier League player. So, I mean, it's still a good option, I think, to buy his card. His price may have gone up a little bit. We can even check. We can check the Sorare market to see what Minte is doing at the moment. £6.16. Yeah. When I was looking at his price 2 weeks ago, it was like half that. And I was saying, if you want a little pump, if you want a cheeky gamble on someone from Brighton, I'd have a look at Minte. Now he's £6.16. That for me, that price is now going to the moon within his sort of within the world of Minte. That is now at the moon. We can see his last prices here. At the beginning of the week, he's been hovering around about £5, £6. So if you want a Minte, if you do, I think, you know, Brighton's fixtures, they've got Southampton next, so they've got a really nice fixture. I think it might even be worth buying a Minte now. I'm not going to go there. If you watch my videos on Thursdays, my Road to Sorare Boss episodes, you'll know my strategy is kind of set now till the end of the season with Premier League players. But if you're looking for a kind of one-off week, this week, Southampton away, Minte looks like he's in great form. Then they've got Bournemouth, Fulham and Man City. So not necessarily the best fixtures after. Fulham at home, that could be a nice fixture. That could be a tasty fixture for him. But yeah, and Mitoma looks lively. I think Mitoma's price has come down recently since Brighton slump. Welbeck's a great option. I used to have a Hinchelwood card, but I think I've got rid of that now. Defenders at Brighton, you know, I don't really think any of them are standout options. Van Heck is kind of the best one in real life. But if you're playing a game like Sorare or FPL or whatever, Brighton defenders probably aren't worth thinking about. But I think going forward, attack-wise, Brighton, keep an eye on them. Chelsea, on the other hand, are absolutely terrible. And I'm glad I didn't buy any Chelsea in-season cards this year because I knew it was a young squad. And even when Chelsea were doing well at the beginning of the season, I did think they're too young. They're too inexperienced. It's not, they are still in Europe. They do, I think they might be, no, they're out of the cups, FA Cup and Carabao Cup. So they've got Europe to look forward to. They've got Premier League still, but they're just too young, too inconsistent, don't have a striker. Jackson's a good striker. I think he's a raw, good striker who on his day could become a great player, but he's not there yet. He's got a lot of potential, Jackson. But I think they need to stick with him, basically, until he becomes that player. Jackson's injured, and so Nkunku's been playing the last 2 games up front, and he is not cut out for this. I don't think he's not a striker. The problem with Nkunku is he plays in Cole Palmer's position. And when Chelsea signed Cole Palmer and him, it was kind of like they signed Nkunku first, then they signed Cole Palmer, and it just so happens to be Cole Palmer's best position is in number 10. That's where Nkunku's best position is. So I don't really know if it's going to quite work out for Nkunku at Chelsea. He's playing up front now. I'm a little worried for him that it might destroy his confidence, because if he has another bad game now, he's going to sort of have that pressure of the Chelsea striker pressure, which many strikers have failed with in the past. So I'm worried. I'm worried for Chelsea. I wouldn't recommend anyone buy any Chelsea players in Sorare, for example. I don't have any in-season cards with Chelsea. I do have a lot of classic cards where I play them every week, kind of hoping that one week they're going to turn it around. Because we have seen promise from Chelsea at the beginning of the season. However, what is going on? What is going on? So that's Brighton-Chelsea. Some positive notes from Brighton if you want to pick up a team sort of towards the end of the season. If you want a real gamble, go for Chelsea, but I wouldn't recommend that. As a Chelsea fan, I wouldn't recommend you go anywhere near Chelsea at the moment. So that was the first game on Friday night. Ruined my weekend already. So that was the first. Now, next up, we had Leicester versus Arsenal. And whoops. We're jumping around the streams. Where are we going? Here we go. Leicester versus Arsenal. My chat is not syncing. I can't see the chat messages, which is annoying, but hello to the chat comments that I've had so far. I can't quite see them. We're having technical issues here. We're having some issues. We are going to work this out. How are we going to work this out? We are going to... Let's switch. Amreezy cam. Constantine, hello. It was Constantine saying hello. I've got the chat now. I can see the chat, Constantine. Thanks for saying hello, mate. How are you? Welcome to the show. We are reviewing the Premier League football. And we are on Leicester versus Arsenal right now. So, apologies for that little technical hiccup, but we're back. So, Arsenal. Now, I have an Ethan Nwaneri card in Sorare, so I was very happy to see him doing well. I crafted him a few weeks ago, and with all of Arsenal's injuries, I also bought a Kai Havertz card a few weeks ago, so really annoying that he's injured. Hiya, Mason. Hiya, how's it going? Thanks for joining us in the chat. We're reviewing Leicester versus Arsenal right now, and we're just talking about the striking problems that Arsenal have had with Nwaneri and Trossard and Sterling starting against Leicester. It does show, if you want to back Arsenal in any kind of fantasy football game, in Sorare in particular, Trossard cards are about £5, £6. Nwaneri cards are like £10, maybe £13. And Sterling cards are free, but don't go near Sterling. I wouldn't go near Sterling. Trossard and Nwaneri, with all of their injury problems, that's Martinelli injured, Saka injured, Jesus injured, Havertz injured. I think these two boys are going to play a lot of Premier League games for the remainder of the season. And if you want a kind of cheeky punt, they're both quite relatively low priced in Sorare. I'm lucky that I've got a Nwaneri card. I crafted him before some of this injury crisis, and I was delighted to see he got an assist and man of the match. A 9.0 rating here. Fantastic. Odegaard. I do think Arsenal are going to push Liverpool all the way. Even with their attacking problems, they've got a solid defence, maybe the best defence in the Premier League. So I do think Arsenal will go all the way. Even though their strikers are getting injured, they've still got enough young players. They had Marino playing up front at the... Was it this game? Yeah, Marino came off the bench and scored twice. So he could be an interesting forward now. Maybe he'll get the gig as the striker. Maybe next game it'll be Nwaneri and Trossard on the wings and Marino through the middle, possibly. I don't quite know what they're going to do here. All I know is I think Nwaneri is pretty much guaranteed to play. I think Trossard is also guaranteed to play. Then I think there'll be some rotation between Sterling and Marino now in those attacking positions. But defensively, they're solid. Look at this defense. Saliba and Gabriel are still there. Rice, Partey, Odegaard are still in the midfield. So Arsenal are going to be a solid team. And I think a lot of people are overlooking their players. And I think that's where some bargains could be had with Trossard, with Nwaneri. Because of all the injuries, they'll be getting games and they've got a solid defence behind them. So I was quite impressed by Arsenal in this game. Leicester, they're gone. They're down. They're relegated. I think it's all about next season for Leicester now. They should just be playing the young players that are going to be playing in the Championship next season. I don't see much here. I'm guessing Van Nistelrooy won't get sacked. I'm guessing he won't get sacked, but you never know. You never know. He could. They may want one last Hail Mary, get a Sam Allardyce type to try and save them. But I think it might be too late now. So you might as well stick with the manager and then give him some time in the Championship and then see what they do. But yeah, Arsenal look good. Leicester look bad. But that wasn't really a surprise. Next game was Aston Villa 1, Ipswich 1. Now, this game was a surprise this weekend. I did not see this coming. I do play FPL as well as Sorare, and I did go for a lot of Aston Villa players in FPL because I thought, Ipswich at home. Ipswich had just lost in the previous game week to Southampton, so didn't see this coming. Liam Delap is a great player. I do have a Liam Delap Sorare card. He's a great player. I think he's leaving. Surely Liam Delap is leaving in the summer, right? Surely he's not going to play good. If Ipswich go down, as I think they will, Delap's moving. So I'm going to be holding on to my Delap card, hoping he gets a big move, hoping he gets a move with first team football in the Premier League for next season, and is a great classic card, under 23 card. So yes, Liam Delap's scored again 2 weeks in a row, but I think Aston Villa here, what were they doing? I think they're missing a bit of spark, and what I put this down to this weekend was them just not having... not clicking really. They've got a few new faces. They've got Rashford, they've got Marlon, they've got quite a lot of new faces. I just don't think they're clicking yet, and I do think they're going to miss John Duran. We do have a question here from Konstantinos saying, I already have sales for my Forest collection, but I don't have a second goalkeeper from Forest. Who do you think is behind sales? Konstantinos, that is very interesting because I literally today bought the Nottingham Forest backup goalkeeper. So I'll tell you who it is. I literally have bought him right now. If you go to my Sorare cards, it's the Brazilian guy. It's Carlos Miguel, who I bought. It says £1.09p here, but I actually bought him for 90p. They've just rounded this up. So I think Carlos Miguel is the Nottingham Forest backup goalkeeper. So I bought him today. How crazy that you're asking me this question, and I literally bought him today. But this is who I think is the Forest goalkeeper. So I bought him to help with my Nottingham Forest collection. And I think it's a good purchase because they did buy this guy to be the number one. It's just that Matt Sells has been so good in goal for Nottingham Forest that he's been knocked out. So what I think he'll do in the summer is I think he'll leave. So I bought his card for 90p today because I think it's a long-term purchase. I think in the summer he's going to move because he was bought as to be the number one goalkeeper. So I think he'll move. So I think he's good to buy as a backup for a bit of security in case Sells gets injured. And then secondly, I think he's a good long-term purchase for next season when he moves, and he's hopefully the number one goalkeeper somewhere. So you can buy him for like £1 now, and then for next season you might have a number one goalkeeper. So yeah, that's what I did. No worries, mate. No worries. Happy to help. And Villa, shaky, and they've got Liverpool next to Villa, so I don't see a win happening there. And they've got, Villa are doing what Newcastle did last season. Villa are really struggling with Champions League and Premier League, and Champions League is so exciting. It's what Newcastle did last season. I think they're putting all of their energy, and they're doing well in the Champions League. They had a good group stage, they had a good league stage, they're in the knockout rounds. So I get why they're really going for the Champions League, but they are struggling in the Premier League. I think they're struggling to motivate themselves. They're struggling with these new attackers not gelling yet. Against Ipswich, Rashford came on, looked a little bit lively. I think Marcus Rashford might be an interesting pick if you want to go for a bit of a gamble. Marlon looks like a good pick. They need a few weeks, I think, to gel. But Watkins is the main man, also a good option now. With John Duran leaving Villa, Watkins has got that guaranteed slot as the number 9. Let's see. Defensively, they're a bit shaky. They have brought Disasi from Chelsea, and as a Chelsea fan, I do not understand why they've done that. I do not understand why they bought him, but they did. Fair play. I don't exactly miss him. I don't think he's the best defender, but they wanted him, so they've got him. But Ipswich are a really funny team. You just can't predict them. I've got Delap and I've got the left back Leif Davis, who didn't play this game. So I've got 2 Ipswich Sorare cards because I thought they'd be better than they were this season. And maybe this is a slight glimmer of hope for Ipswich. Maybe, draw away against Aston Villa is a good result. Maybe they can go on a good run. I don't know what the fixtures are like for Ipswich. They've got Tottenham at home next, which Tottenham don't have the best defense. They could score some goals there. Manchester United away could surprise Manchester United there. Man United are in terrible form. Then Forest, Palace, Forest again. They're going to be 3 tricky games. So I don't really see Ipswich being a sensible team to back. But if you want a really long shot bargain, you can think about it. And then there was another surprise after Aston Villa versus Ipswich. Fulham beating Nottingham Forest. I just don't know what to expect with my Nottingham Forest boys. If you've been following my channel, I do videos every Thursday on about Sorare, and I've had a Nottingham Forest collection most of the season. And for a long time, it was great. I won a lot from my Forest collection. I had a lot of fun with them. But recently, they're so hard to predict what Nottingham Forest are going to do. They lost to Bournemouth 5-0. Then they beat Brighton 7-0. And then they lose to Fulham. You just don't know what to expect. I think, however, Fulham are also a little bit like that. Fulham are having a good season. They're a bit similar to Nottingham Forest. Were having a great season. Then had a few weird results. Now are picking up some good results again. Are Fulham back? Fulham and Nottingham Forest are having very similar seasons. They're both doing better than we all expected. They've both got a lot of good players, but on their day, they can be really bad. On their day, they can be really good. So I was saying last week, if you want to buy some Fulham cards, I think Fulham are a good team in Sorare. But I think we had some discussion in the chat last video where we were saying that there's not guaranteed AA scores with Fulham cards. It's really hard to pick a player who every week will give you high scores. They're very peaky, but the prices are quite cheap. And I think last week I did say a good Fulham team would be to get Leno in goal, Robinson defense, midfield possibly Iwobi, Jimenez up front, and maybe another midfielder, maybe someone like Smith Rowe. I've got Harry Wilson. When Harry Wilson is fit, I think he's a good player. Traore looked really good. Was he man of the match? He has 8.1 rating. Traore had an amazing game, and he's a very frustrating player, which is why I would never buy his Sorare card, because I've always wanted Traore to kick on, and I wanted his career to get on to the next level. He's always looked like a player that has a lot of promise, really fast, really strong, but he just isn't consistent. And this game against Nottingham Forest, I did watch it, obviously, because I had a big Nottingham Forest collection. In my Premier League in-season, number 1 team was basically Nottingham Forest. I was backing them. Burge has amazing AA. Yeah, Burge has gone under the radar, Mason. But you're right about that. Burge has had he's gone under the radar. How much is a Burge card going for nowadays? Burge could be that second midfielder if you wanted. Mason, do you have any Fulham cards yourself, or is Burge just on your watch list? £1.30, £1.30 for a Sander Burge card, and the problem that puts me off Burge is he does have amazing AA, but he never gets those decisives. And that's why I usually would go for someone like Harry Wilson or Iwobi, where their AA is not as good, but they get more decisives. Because none of these, say, last four scores are that good. He did have a 67 here, which was good. Yeah, you've got the main five. Yeah, I mean, look at this. He had a great period here. And he does get international football. As you can see here, he's a good card to have for international breaks. So, what are Fulham's fixtures like? They've got Crystal Palace. Wolves is a nice fixture. Brighton could be a nice fixture. Then he's got 2 international breaks. You've got Mason's got Leno, Robinson, Burge, Iwobi, and then either Jimenez or Smith Rowe. Smith Rowe looked really good at this game. Smith Rowe looked really live. I know he got the goal. It wasn't just the goal. It looks like, I was saying last week, maybe Smith Rowe needs a season to settle in, and next season he's going to be really good. He looked really good this game. I was impressed with Smith Rowe. I was impressed with Traore. I was impressed with most of the Fulham's attack. Nottingham Forest, however, I was very disappointed with. I think they're missing Hudson Odoi, I think, because the way they were playing with Wood playing here, and then Langer here and Hudson Odoi here, they just had a lot of threat. I think the way Chris Wood plays, he needs fast wingers around him because he's got no pace himself. And he kind of drops back a little bit, or he's poaching in the penalty area. When they don't have the 2 fast wingers, they're relying too much on Aina and Williams. I just don't think this formation works for them with 3 defenders at the back. I was saying if they play 3 defenders at the back again, Morato is a very cheap card. You can get him for about 50p. However, his scores aren't that great, and you're just getting a cheap starter. He might be good for a Sorare capped league. If there's a capped competition one week and Forest is still playing 3 at the back, someone like Morato could be a good option. But I think Forest should go back to 4 at the back with Aina and Williams more as kind of wing backs here, fullback, sorry, and Milenkovic and Murillo as the 2 centre backs, because you're missing out on 2 wingers supporting Wood. Aina and Williams, they can't really support Wood the same way Hudson Odoi and Elanga is. And Hudson Odoi did come off the bench in this game, so maybe Hudson Odoi is going to start from now on. He came off the bench on 68 minutes, and I think they've missed him. I think they've missed him big time, and I've not got an Elanga card. I've got a Hudson Odoi card, which is why I kind of know how he was doing really well early on in the season. Had a bit of a dip, then got injured. So now that he's back from injury, I think Hudson Odoi needs a strong end to this season. And as a Nottingham Forest collection holder, I really hope he does. But let's see what happens. Hopefully Forest bounce back. The problem is, Forest's fixtures now are Newcastle away, Arsenal at home, Ipswich in the FA Cup, and then Manchester City in the league. So this won't be covered by Sorare, the FA Cup game. So the next Premier League games are Newcastle, Arsenal, and Manchester City. Really tricky 3 fixtures. So I'm just hoping they get through those 3 fixtures without any... What I would recommend, if you haven't got Nottingham Forest cards, is wait till these 3 fixtures have been finished, because those Forest cards are going to go down in price when they probably lose to Arsenal, probably lose to Manchester City. All of a sudden, people aren't going to want to have Forest cards. But then you'll have Ipswich, Manchester United, and Villa, which they could win all 3 of these. So I would say if you've not got any Forest cards in Sorare, don't rush to buy them right now. Maybe give it 2 or 3 weeks. And then if you want like a team towards the end of the season who might finish strong, because Forest are still playing for Europe. They've got no European football right now to distract themselves with. So they're going to have all of their focus on trying to finish in a European place, which will be an amazing achievement for them. So I'm hoping this is a one-off game for Forest, obviously as a Forest holder. But yeah, Fulham are exciting. I wish I had more Fulham players. I've got Robinson and I've got Harry Wilson. And after Mason's little chat about, Sander Berge, I'm tempted. I'm tempted because I don't think Leno's an expensive goalkeeper as well. So they're a nice kind of cheap mid-table stack. Let's have a look at how much a Leno card will cost you right now. I'm guessing around about £15. £15 is what I'd be happy to pay for him. £11.71. Okay. Tune into my Thursday videos where I update you on my gallery in Sorare, and you might see that I've bought a Leno card this week. Let's see. I'm going to keep an eye on that one. I'll see if I can negotiate that for like around about £10. But yeah, that was Nottingham Forest versus Fulham. Then we had Manchester City versus Newcastle, and I watched this game on a kind of second screen as I was watching Fulham versus Nottingham Forest. And that boy Marmoush, we've all missed it. Don't buy any Marmoush cards. You've missed it. You should have bought Marmoush cards a week or two ago because he looked really good. Obviously, he got a hat trick, but he looked really good. And the other player who looked really good, who I do have a Sorare card of, was Savinho. I really like Savinho. I think he's just a copy and paste of Mahrez. I can see why Guardiola likes him. He even wears the same shirt number that Mahrez used to wear. He plays in the same position as Mahrez, kind of runs the same kind of way, plays the same kind of way, wears the same shirt number. It's just really spooky how they've just replaced Mahrez finally with a copy and paste Savinho. And I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's a great under-23 card in Sorare. I think he's going to play first-team football most of the games for Man City. I think this will be Man City's number one front four. And it's going to be hard because it's Pep, so he likes to rotate. So Foden will miss a few games. De Bruyne will play. Bernardo Silva will come in and Savinho will miss games. Mamouche will probably miss a few games. Grealish will play random games. But I think generally these are the four guys to kind of back. If I was to recommend getting 4 Sorare cards from City, they're the 4 cards. I've got a Savinho, I've got a Foden in Classic, and these 2 guys are just too expensive for me. I was really impressed with Gonzalez. I think they've finally replaced Rodri. They've not replaced Rodri, but they finally got backup for Rodri. Gonzalez was just Rodri. I think after the game, Pep did say, we've got a new Rodri. I think he's delighted. He was so good. He was breaking up play, winning tackles, making sensible passes, recycling possession, doesn't lose the ball much. He looks an amazing player. And Gundogan was a bit more disciplined as well. So I think this is also the 2 guys. I think I've got a Kovacic Chelsea card who occasionally gets a game, but I don't think I'm going to expect anything from Kovacic anymore. He's had his time this season. He didn't really impress. I think Kovacic needs to leave Man City so I can get more usage out of my card. But these 2 look like the holding players that are going to be the guys for Man City now. And yeah, I was impressed with Man City. Newcastle are in a weird form. Is that 2 defeats in a row for Newcastle now? And they've got Nottingham Forest next. So I'd really hope Nottingham Forest beat them and they lose 3 in a row. And as a Chelsea fan, I need the teams around Chelsea to start losing, so Chelsea have a better chance of qualifying for Europe as well. So yeah, Newcastle, I'd be a little bit worried. I have a Murphy card. Now the other thing is, I like to buy Sorare cards when they're low, when those players are, when they're dipping. So I was trying to buy Isaac, I was trying to buy Gordon earlier in the season. The prices were too high when Newcastle were in good form. So, it depends on how you play Sorare. If you want to risk, and how I like to buy cards is I like to buy cards when they're on the down. And Isaac and Gordon's prices are coming down. So if they have one more defeat, I'll be tempted. Because you can see a Newcastle resurgence. Newcastle don't have European football. So again, when the Champions League comes back to the knockout rounds, those teams in the Champions League are going to be distracted. They're going to rest players or be tired for Premier League games. Newcastle don't have that distraction like they did last season. So if they are going to turn their form around, now's probably a good time to buy their cards. However, it's risky because what if they don't turn their form around and they continue this bad run of form? So I don't quite know what to expect. Isaac didn't look fully fit to me. I don't know if they're rushing him back from injury, if he needs a bit of a rest. Isaac didn't look his usual self. He didn't look as fit as he usually has. I don't know if there's a slight injury concern there. But yeah, Isaac and Gordon, worrying. But from Sorare, could be cheap now. So yeah, City, I'm excited to own a Savinho card. I wish I had a Marmouche card. Newcastle, disappointing, but maybe bargains to be had there. Next up was Southampton, obviously losing to Bournemouth. A very unsurprising game this. 0 surprises here. Bournemouth, I was saying last week, if you want to buy a stack for last week, Bournemouth was the team to get. You get yourself a Clivert, a Semenyo, a midfielder, a Huijsen, and a Kepa in goal. A nice stack there. Bournemouth, you can get a nice cheap stack with Bournemouth still. some of the prices have gone up because I've been trying to get a Cliver, I've been trying to get a Semenyo, and the prices have now gone like above £10, which for me, I don't think they're worth that. I wanted them around about £5. I've now missed my moment to get Bournemouth players. I do have a few. Annoyingly, I've got Evan Nielsen, who's been injured. I've got Lewis Cook, who's scoring really bad in Sorare now that he's playing right back. I've got a Zabani and I've got a Kepa in Classic. So I've got a few Bournemouth players, but I don't have Cliver, I don't have Semenyo, who are the two best attacking players. Otara is a good option as well, and a little bit cheaper than these two, but his scores aren't as good as these two. So I would recommend still, if you want a Bournemouth stack, I still think it's worth it, even though I'm not getting them. I'm also not getting them because I've got 3 Premier League in-season lineups. I've got Wolves, Nottingham Forest, and then mixed. So I don't really want to buy more cards. But if I had, say, a free spot, if I was a new Sorare manager and I hadn't got any Premier League in-season cards, Bournemouth are just a seemingly solid bet, and their fixtures are good. Bournemouth have got nice fixtures for the remainder of the season, and they've done well against the big teams. Even when they've got a tricky fixture, Bournemouth, they've surprised a few big teams this season already. So very impressive, Bournemouth. They're having an amazing season. Southampton are a joke. Nothing. Don't go near Southampton. Even, maybe if you want some cheap players for the Championship next season, you might want to think about that. Because I did that last season. I looked at Burnley last season when they were getting relegated. And now Burnley doing really well in the Championship. So if you want to buy a really cheap stack of Premier League cards like Southampton for next season's Championship Classic, maybe that's something you want to think about. But that's something I wouldn't recommend. But something you may want to do. So that was Southampton, Bournemouth. Now we go to West Ham, Brentford. And I've got a full West Ham Classic collection. So I played it, a Classic team backing 5 West Ham cards. Really disappointed with this. Really disappointed with West Ham. I did think Graham Potter, he'd come in, he'd do well, and he's not. He's not yet done it. Now it's still early, but it doesn't look good. And I think James Ward-Prowse should be in the team. He's one of my favourite players, James Ward-Prowse. And I'm not saying that because I've bought his Sorare card recently as part of my West Ham collection. I just think James Ward-Prowse's creativity in that midfield. They're playing Souček and Alvarez, who are both just... They're not creative enough. They don't have the vision. They're both solid players. They're both good. But I think one of those players is enough. And James Ward-Prowse alongside one of them. That's what I would do. But I guess they've got a lot of attacking players like Bowen, Kudus, Paquetá. Maybe Potter thinks he needs 2 disciplined midfielders. I don't know why Soler started at left wing. I don't know why Souček started here. I'm very disappointed by West Ham. And Brentford aren't in the best form. Brentford have had a bit of struggling. Brentford got a bit lucky that they got West Ham this game, because Brentford have been struggling, haven't looked good. And they got lucky they were playing a West Ham team that are looking even worse than them. I mean, look at these scores. 6.4, 6, 6.8, 6.3. Bowen, very disappointing from Bowen, who in the last game came back from injury and scored. Didn't look lively this game. They are missing a striker. I don't think Paquetá is the long-term striker. He's a good player, Paquetá, but they needed Fulkrug, really, to not be injured all the time. They need a striker. But yeah, disappointing from West Ham. And as someone that has a lot of West Ham Sorare cards, I'm really hoping Potter clicks sooner rather than later, because I need them to. I need West Ham to do something. What are the fixtures like? When are West Ham going to click? Arsenal away next. That's not going to happen. However, after Arsenal away, Leicester at home. So maybe West Ham can get their season going here, because they've got Leicester at home. If they get a nice confidence-boosting win here, they've then got Newcastle. And we've seen Newcastle's fixtures. Maybe Newcastle aren't going to be the Newcastle from earlier on in the season. They could be confidence destroyed after another defeat against, is it Arsenal they've got next? So maybe West Ham will get a win against Leicester, playing out of form Newcastle. Everton away will be tricky. Wolves could be doable though, so possibly we could get a resurgence here, but judging from how they played against Brentford, it doesn't look lively. On the other hand, Brentford, maybe this is the win that they need to get their season going again. They're in an awkward position, Brentford, and I feel like they do this every year. They start the season well, they're kind of safe, they're not going to get relegated, and then they just kind of don't get a European place, don't get relegated, and just have another season in the Premier League, which still for Brentford is quite an achievement for every year to be finishing in the Premier League when they don't spend millions like other teams. They're a well-run team, well-managed team by Thomas Frank, but I wouldn't back them in games like Sorare, for example. Mbeumo's a good option. Wisa's a good option. Possibly those two just as an attacking stack you might want to get, but I don't think beyond that you'd want to consider any of the defenders. Midfielders aren't that great. When I first started playing Sorare, I had a Norgard card, so I know firsthand how frustrating he can be. On his day, he can score well, but he's not consistent enough in terms of decisives and AA, so Damsgaard, maybe. Schade always seems to do well. Is Schade a forward or a midfielder? If he's a midfielder, that could be a good midfielder option for Brentford. Let's spell his name right. Schade is a midfielder. Ooh, okay, so that... I'm talking myself into a Brentford card now. So you could go Mbeumo and Wisa as two strikers. Schade as your midfielder, who's done well. And look, he does peak. He does peak. Damsgaard is very good technically, says Mason, with the ball. Yeah, Damsgaard is one of those players where they're good in real life, but they don't seem to do well in Sorare. They're good in real life, but not as so much in Sorare. So if I was going for a Brentford stack, I'd go for Schade as the midfielder because on his day, when he scores, he seems to get a good score. When he doesn't score, he doesn't really do much. So maybe I'm talking myself out of it now because he's not going to score that well. He's not going to score every week. Damsgaard is more expensive and for me can score better than Schade, but Schade seems to be scoring more consistently. Although there's much bigger scores at the beginning. Look at this. This period here that Damsgaard was on. All right, so maybe you go Damsgaard instead of Schade then. Because you'd hope he'd get back to this. Because this wasn't that long ago. Game week 25 was when this run ended. So he's had a few small scores here, but if Brentford are going to get back to winning ways, Damsgaard is likely, I guess, to be involved. So perhaps you go Damsgaard, Wisa, and Mbeumo, and you just go for an attacking stack. Defensively, who would you go for? Would you go for Van der Berg? Collins, Van der Berg, Lewis Potter, and Ayer. I used to have an Ayer card. I don't think he was that great. He just come back from injury, so you can get him for quite a low price right now, 42p. Really hard to judge him because all season he was been injured, had some low scores here, wasn't the best scorer early on, but did put a 60 score against West Ham and is really cheap. And then Flecken in goal, not the best Premier League goalkeeper, but a cheap Premier League starting goalkeeper. So, yeah, a Brentford stack. I don't have any Brentford cards, but I wouldn't... A Flecken, cheap defender, Damsgaard or Schade, and then Mbeumo and Wisa. I think Mbeumo is going to be the only slightly expensive card. I think the rest of them are all going to be under £10. So, yeah. Interesting. Have a think about Brentford. Konstantinos says, I think Xerxes is good, but his scores are terrible. For example, yesterday against Spurs, although he played well, he scored 28. Yeah, I was impressed with him yesterday as well. I was actually thinking yesterday that, you know, he had quite a few... He had quite a few good moments where he was building up play nicely. He was holding the ball up and giving it to a player, but then the other player was losing the ball or was wasting the chance. So I think, yeah, the Xerxes is really struggling with being in a bad performing team who have no confidence. But I agree, Xerxes was good. I thought he was good. I'm surprised his score was 28. If Manchester United can get going, and I think that's what Man United are hoping, that Amorim eventually clicks, eventually gets going, a bit like Potter at West Ham. Xerxes will be could be a good option in the future. I still think the striker as well. I forgot his name. The big striker. He could still come good as well. I think he might need a season to settle in, But the problem with Manchester United is there's just so little confidence right now in the entire team that those scores are, and also in Sorare, Manchester United are really overpriced because they're such a well-supported team. They've got so many fans around the world. You're always going to pay an extra tax for Manchester United players they're just not worth it for me. But yeah, Xerxes there is a player there. There's a player there if he can unlock it. Next up, Crystal Palace versus Everton, and I am so impressed with Everton. Main camera, hot take time. Amreezy's hot take of the week. Here's my hot take of the week. I think David Moyes is the most underrated manager in the Premier League, and maybe has been the most underrated manager in the Premier League for like the last decade. I think he's an amazing manager, David Moyes. I think he's that little spell at Manchester United has almost ruined his reputation, which is ridiculous because nobody could have replaced Sir Alex Ferguson. We've seen, even Emery couldn't replace Wenger at Arsenal. Moyes couldn't replace Ferguson at Man United. Nobody could. And then we've seen also the circus at Manchester United after Ferguson. No manager's done a good job, really. They haven't had any good managers. So Moyes was really unfairly criticised and viewed from his Manchester United time when he had like strange transfers and a team that was Alex Ferguson's, and I think he's an amazing manager. David Moyes, the way he's come into Everton right now and just made them solid at the back, creative in midfield, given confidence to Beto up front, given confidence to Ndiaye before Ndiaye got injured, immediately come in, given confidence to the players, and look at like Potter at West Ham. Potter at West Ham has probably a better squad than Everton, right? I'd say West Ham have a better squad than Everton. Paquetá, Bowen, Kudos, Kilman, solid defenders, lots of midfield options. They had Fulkrug. I know Fulkrug's been injured, but on paper, I'd say West Ham had a better squad than Everton. But the way Potter's come in and the way Moyes has come in at Everton, Moyes has done an amazing job. And I love how he sets his teams up. I love how he plays with creative wingers. I love his crosses. David Moyes won Mason is correct in the chat. David Moyes won a European trophy with West Ham. And I think the problem with Moyes at West Ham is they were buying him players that he didn't need or he didn't want. David Moyes wants two wingers like Lindstrom and Harrison. Wingers that can cross the ball. Wingers that, like, back in the day when he was at Everton and he had Tim Cahill, Andy Johnson, Pienaar, that Everton team from back in the day with Moyes, 4-4-2, and it is almost a 4-4-2. Last week they had Doucouré here, and Doucouré was basically playing as a striker. This time it was Alcaraz here, basically playing as a kind of supporting striker, but a number 10 as well. It's 4-4-2, but it's kind of creative 4-4-2. He's an amazing manager. David Moyes makes players better, and I don't know if there's many other managers in the Premier League. Maybe you'd say people like Guardiola, maybe other managers like that, but there's very few managers that make players better. And you can see as soon as Moyes came in, Beto looks amazing now. Garner looks amazing. Gay looks amazing. Tarkowski and Braithwaite look like an amazing partnership at the back. Mylenko was bombing forward on the left lately. Harrison looks like a creative crossing winger who's creating chances. He created so many chances from the wing, Harrison. Lindstrom, who I do have his Sorare card. Lindstrom, an amazing player as well. Just looks lively. I think David Moyes is amazing. That's what I wanted to say. I just really think he's an amazing manager. And in terms of Sorare, I've got a few Everton options. I wish I had a better card, and I'm stubborn. I don't like playing. I don't like paying for cards when they've gone up. And Beto's just scored 3 goals in a row, so his price is going up. And I'll wait for it to drop down before I think about buying him. But I like a little Everton stack. I've got Lindstrom, I've got Ndiaye who's injured, I've got Tarkowski, Braithwaite, and Garner in Classic. So I've got a few options here. And Garner is looking really good. Under 23 player. He's playing a bit like Cesc Fabregas. He's kind of like breaking up play, playing in the middle, playing a really good through balls over the top of the defense. I think he played like 2 really nice balls over the top to Beto this game. And I'm really excited about Everton. I think they're going to have an amazing rest of the season. I think Moyes is an amazing manager. And they've got these new owners now. If they can give Moyes the players that he actually wants, not like big names, not flashy players like he got at West Ham that he didn't really need, all of those number 10s that they kept signing when he needed other players. If he can actually have a good relationship with the owners at Everton, Moyes is going to do amazing at them. Everton are going to have a good season, and I'm quite interested to see next year. I think there could be a good team to kind of back early on, because I don't think a lot of people will think of Everton as being one of those teams. But I think next year, Everton could be like what Bournemouth are this year. I think Everton could be the Nottingham Forest, the Bournemouth, the Fulham next year. Everton could be that with Moyes and the right signings. It all depends on who they sign in the summer. But they've got a good, strong defence, amazing goalkeeper, two solid creative midfielder, one Garner. Gay's quite a solid creative player. Wingers that like to cross the ball. Beto can finish. All of a sudden, Everton look like a good team. And that's all down to Moyes. So I was really impressed with them. And they were playing a Crystal Palace team at Crystal Palace's stadium. Crystal Palace have been in a good run. It wasn't like Crystal Palace were that bad this game. I watched this game quite closely because I had a Crystal Palace stack in Premier League in season in my second lineup. It was all Crystal Palace. So I kind of wanted Crystal Palace to win this because I've got Henderson, Lacroix, Mitchell, Mateta, and Eze. So I've got a 5 Crystal Palace stack. And they've been on a good run, Crystal Palace, lately. So I was kind of hoping that they'd continue that good run. Eze didn't start the game, which was a bit annoying. But I think Crystal Palace are still good. I don't think this was Crystal Palace being bad. I think this was just Everton being really good. So go get Everton players. That's my Sorare advice. Get Everton players. I want to get a Beto. Alcaraz looked decent. Harrison looked decent. I think they're a nice cheap stack when they've got a good fixture. I think possibly they might have some tricky fixtures. Or am I getting that wrong? Maybe. Nah, they've got Manchester United at home. That's a good fixture. Brentford away. That's not the worst fixture. Wolves, not the worst fixture. West Ham. They've got 4 nice games, Everton. 4 nice games. Then they've got Liverpool, Arsenal, and Forest. So it possibly gets a bit tricky here. But if they get a lot of wins from these 4 games, they're going to go into these games with a lot of confidence. And remember, Liverpool and Arsenal might have Champions League football at that time. It might be the latter stages of the Champions League. They may have really big games in the Champions League that they're kind of concentrating on. And Everton might be able to take advantage of some tired legs. So I like Everton. I think they're a good team. I've got a few Everton cards in season and classic. So I might add 1 or 2 more, but we'll see. We'll see. So that was Saturday's games in the Premier League. That was kind of how Saturday went. Then we didn't have any Monday night football. We just had 2 games on the Sunday. Liverpool were the first one, playing Wolves, and I have a lot of Wolves cards. I'm just glad that this game is gone because I've got my Wolves collection at 4% now. It's gonna get to 5%. We're almost at 5%. It will get to 5% once all of the collection scores have not been transfer listed, all the players. So I'm really hoping that Wolves, when their fixtures turn, which they're gonna turn in soon, Wolves' fixtures are gonna turn, and they need to stay in the Premier League. They're just above Ipswich. They are 2 points above Ipswich. So Wolves need to get going. And I think they've just had really tricky fixtures, Wolves. They beat Villa. They beat Wolves in the Cup. Lost to Liverpool. Bournemouth is another tricky fixture. Away at Bournemouth, tricky fixture. But then they've got Fulham, FA Cup game, Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Ipswich. Look at this. This is why I've got my Wolves collection. Southampton, West Ham, Ipswich, when they need wins, when they need to stay up. This is why, and I'm going to be putting my Wolves team in my strongest Premier League lineup. Premier League in season, hopefully Division 1. I'm going to be playing Cunha with 4 other players and really hoping that Wolves do well because I think, they didn't get battered against Liverpool. They showed that they're not as bad as the league table suggests. And I think the new manager has come in and stabilized them. And with Cunha, they can always win a game. They can always win with Cunha. He's so good. Surely he's going to leave in the summer. He's so good, Cunha, that he's worth me having an entire Wolves collection just to have Cunha. So this Agbadu guy, by the way, he looks decent as well at the back. Totti Gomez is a quality defender. I think they've got 2 good defenders here. Jose Sa, I don't think he's the best goalkeeper, but the manager likes him. So, and you can buy him for like £6 at the moment. So cheap goalkeeper there. Andre and Gomez, two exciting young midfielders. Ait Nouri and Semedo, really good attacking wingbacks. I think they missed that Norwegian striker Larsen. I hope he comes back. How long is he injured for? Injured till late February. So when Wolves' fixtures get good, Jorgen Strand Larsen should be back from injury. He'll be playing there. I think a nice stack of Larsen as your striker and Cunha. Then a midfielder of either Andre or Gomez, maybe Sarabia if he's kind of established himself in the team, but I don't know if he does. And then you've got Abagadu as a possible, Totti Gomez as a possible defender, Semedo, Ait Nouri, possible good defenders, and then Sarr in goal. I think Wolves, I've been saying it all season, I bought this Wolves stack for the ending of the season, when they're trying to stay up. I think they will stay up because I think Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester are all terrible and will get relegated. But Wolves will still need to win those games just to make sure they definitely do stay up. So I'm excited to see what my Wolves stat can be. I think it'll be a nice long shot. And Liverpool are Liverpool. They're going to win the league, I think. And no real surprises with Liverpool. The last game, Mason's comments saying, don't know if you do this, but could you have a look at my Premier League Sorare gallery and make any recommendations? You know what, Mason? I will. Can you let me know your Sorare manager name? And then we'll do that at the end of we'll end the video looking at having a quick look at your gallery. I don't usually do that, but I don't mind doing it. That's quite a cool thing to do. So yeah, Mason, if you can just let me know your Sorare manager name, we'll take a look at your gallery. Tottenham v Manchester United was the last game of the weekend. And I was surprised. I thought, Manchester United, if they're going to get going, Tottenham aren't in the best of form. This could have been a good game for Man United to get back to winning ways. But Tottenham starting to look a bit better. Tell looked okay as the kind of spearhead striker. Maddison looked very good. I don't know what happened with Maddison. I don't know why he was out of the team, but Maddison should be playing. Maddison should be playing every game. And because of how well he played this game, I think he'll now be in the team again. So Maddison looks lively. Tell didn't look terrible, didn't look good, didn't look amazing, but it was okay. Bentancur is the only Tottenham card I have. As a Chelsea fan, it's quite hard for me to own Tottenham cards, but Bentancur is the only midfielder I had. He didn't have the best game and also got a little injury, so I hope that's not serious. The defense is still a mess at Tottenham. Manchester United didn't test it enough, but Tottenham, I think better teams will still ruin this Tottenham defense. Danzo, Davies, Jed Spencer at left back. It's not strong, but going forward, Tottenham are going to score goals. They're still an attacking team, so I would never encourage anyone to buy a defensive stack from Tottenham, but I think Maddison's a good option now. Son's always lively. Kulusevski's always lively. Who have I got? Who did I used to have? I used to have the Welsh winger. Oh, what's his name? The Welsh winger at Tottenham. My mind's gone blank. You know who he is. I had him, but it seems like this is the starting lineup for Tottenham now. So I think if you want to take a gamble on Maddison and say Kulusevski, I wouldn't say that was a bad thing. I would just preface that with they're not going to play Manchester United every week, and Man United are in terrible form. I don't know why Casemiro is still playing, but he is. So that's how the Premier League did with that game week. We are done with our Premier League review. We're going to finish the video this week looking at Mason's gallery. Mason, I'm not sure if you are I don't recognize your name in the chat. Brennan Johnson! It was Brennan Johnson, of course. I have a Brennan Johnson card, but I think he's injured. Or did I sell it? Did I sell my Brennan Johnson card? No, I didn't sell it because I've got a little Welsh stack. I've got Brennan Johnson, Harry Wilson, and Nico Williams. I'm building a little Wales stack for international breaks. So I've still got my Brennan Johnson. So maybe he can... I'd like him to replace Kulusevski. in the team for my own selfish reasons. But Mason, I don't recognize your name in the chat. So if you're new, welcome to the channel. It's good to have you on board. Every Thursday, I do a Road to Sorare boss episode where I review my gallery. And then every Monday, I do a live video. So it's good to have you here. And anyone else who's new or watching this after this video's live, if you're watching this in the future, welcome from the past. Give the video a like and a subscribe. Follow the channel for more Sorare content. We're finishing the video looking at Mason's gallery. And if you'd like me to look at your gallery, I could possibly do that every week, maybe. Looking at one person's gallery. I don't know how we'd work this out, but let's take a look at Mason's gallery. 279 cards, playing limited like me. Let me just quickly look at what leagues you play most. You have 66 Premier League cards. So like me, Premier League's your kind of main league. For me, it's Premier League, La Liga, and Mexico. For you, it looks like it's Premier League, Belgium, and Holland. Eredivisie. You've got a bit of contender action going as well. Just out of curiosity, I'm curious to see who your Mexican card is. Gorian! That's my Mexican team, Santos. Even though he's at Tigres, he's a great player. Great player, Gorian. I've not got a Gorian card, but yeah. So I'm going to take a look at just the Premier League cards. Oh, cool, Mason. Thanks for watching the Thursday vids. Glad you like it. So, you've got yourself a Cunha. Let's take a look at in-season. So, first I'll have a look at in-season. Robinson, Martinez, Fernandez, Gomez, Iwobi, Clive. You've got some great players here. Yeah, you've got some great players here. It seems like you've got a lot of Fulham, Wolves stacks, and then you've got random kind of cards here and there. Quite a lot of Newcastle players. That's quite a nice. All my knowledge is in contender since I'm a Rangers fan. Ah, nice. I've always debated getting Rangers cards because for me it seems like as long as they're not playing Celtic, Rangers should have a good game week most weeks. So I've always debated doing that. But my contender cards I usually play are in Mexico. So. I've never really gone for any Scottish cards, but maybe I'll be tempted. Guimaraes, Murphy, you've got yourself a nice Newcastle stack here. So one thing I'd say, I don't know what your budget's like, Mason, but with Guimaraes and Murphy, with Newcastle's form being on the down, now's great time to get Isaac and Gordon. Their prices are dropping nicely. It would complement nicely with your Newcastle's cards. You'd have Guimaraes and Murphy and then as your midfielders, and then you could have Isaac and Gordon as your strikers, or just one of them, because I think their prices have come down, but I don't know what your budget is. So that's kind of an upper budget if you didn't want to go for like Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, those kind of teams. That's something that jumps out to me because you've already got the midfielders supporting them. You've got Undying Ghana like me. So if you want cheaper options, I've just been praising Everton a lot. A Beto card. So I think Undai's injured. So like me, you've got Undai and he's injured annoyingly. So Beto would be a nice replacement for Undai. Beto, Ghana, and then Tarkovsky and as your defender. I think Everton, with the fixtures that I just showed as well for Everton, I think Beto is like £2 at the moment. So a cheap forward, Beto could be an option. You've got Mateta as well. I've got Mateta. I play him with a full Crystal Palace stack. I don't know if you'd think about that. These cards aren't really worth playing. So yeah, my kind of upper budget tips would be Isaac and Gordon to go with your Newcastle boys. Lewis Hall maybe as a defender card, so you can go for that full Newcastle stack. Have a look at Eze. I don't know if, because you've got Mateta, Sarr, Munoz. Maybe an Eze would go nicely with those. And then the other thing I would think about is Everton. I think I would just really recommend Everton right now to everyone because Moyes has come in and done an amazing job. So you've already got Ghana and Dandai, and Ghana looks really lively. I don't think these scores are quite fair. Those two scores, I don't think fair. I think he's still coming back from injury. He's still finding his place in the team. I really do think Ghana could have a good ending of the season. But if you wanted another Everton midfielder to kind of shore up, Harrison looks like a great player. So you could possibly go for Beto, Harrison, Tarkovsky, and you've got Eze in Classic. Sorry, I've not looked at your Classic cards. So you probably don't need And there's a then, if you've got him in Classic. Oh, Buemo, nice. Yeah, I think Brentford could go on a nice run. So that's a great card here. I like your gallery. You're a little bit like me, Mason. You've not got Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. You've got the best of the rest, which is how I like to play Sorare. So your gallery feels very similar to mine. Elliot Anderson, perhaps you want to consider more Forest. I was saying Nottingham Forest have got 3 really hard fixtures coming up. So maybe you want to wait till after those 3 fixtures and the Nottingham Forest's prices come down. And then you might want to possibly think about getting a few more Forest boys to go with Anderson. But I think you've got a great gallery. You've got lots of options. You've got Ollie Watkins, nice. You've also got a Harry Wilson card. When's Harry Wilson coming back from injury? We both need Harry Wilson to come back and get back to... He went on a great run, Harry Wilson, here. Harry Wilson was on great form, but he comes back April the 1st. I make a lot of pickups based on your video, so I'm glad to see they're useful, Mason. I hope that those suggestions I just gave you were useful, Mason. Yeah, have a look at those options. That's me done for this week. Thanks for joining us in the chat, Mason and Konstantinos. I'll be back with a Premier League review show just like this one on Monday. I'll have another Road to Sorare Boss episode on Thursday where I give you more of an in-depth look at my gallery and the moves that I'm making. It looks like I'm going to win $20 this midweek from my Premier League in-season card, so that's nice. I'll show you how I won that on Thursday. Otherwise, I'll see you next Monday. Give the video likes and subscribes and all that good stuff. I'll see you next week. Peace.